as you heard in those 4 hours of recording, I was really grappling with judgment of what I thought was good, what I thought was bad, what should be, what shouldn't be. And so understanding that from the divine perspective, there's a place to escape all this was really, really valuable to kind of set a landscape that I could navigate.
I think, the audience is, especially now in the world, really going to have access to some good tools through this because, in the world, without going deep, I mean, everyone knows what I'm talking about because it's such a global thing that wondering if what's happening is good, right? Is what's happening good? A lot of people say it's bad, and they have all these, preferences. And usually that's what has us thinking, oh, well, this is good, this is of the light, but that's dark, that's not, because my preference wants me over here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a very valuable film that's being put together, and the tools that you are dredging out of yourself through that process. It's interesting because we did the interview afterwards and you had mentioned, so we put this part in the film, but when you came out of the darkness, this was just weeks before the world went into lockdowns and, what's been happening with businesses, and it hasn't stopped since then. And so I can sense it because people are emailing me all the time, but they're hungry for something, not to solve the problem, but to make sense of it.
Yeah.
To help make sense of what's going on in the world. And I think that's what's beautiful about this, and especially that part. You even mentioned Hermes Trismegistus. It was, help me
as
remember
above,
that.
so below, as within, so without.
No, it's the circumference.
Yeah. God can be expressed as a circle whose center is everywhere and circumference is nowhere.
Is nowhere. Yeah. And that's like if your perspective is everywhere, right, then it is a perspectival.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. It definitely helped me. And I know that the editor, Brian Sheehan, he just lost his father a few days ago. And he says that working on this film has been one of the most rich and valuable things throughout this process for him. As he was, his father took a while for him to die. So it was a lot of him by his dad's side as he was dying, like inches away from the darkness.
Yeah.
And he found so much value in that. I find that with every film that I work on, mainly because I only work on films that I think are rich and valuable to the soul of the audience. Even the animators that we brought in said I needed this right now. And I think the world is going to find a lot of value out of it as well.
Yeah, that's what we're both here for. I mean, of course, there's elements to any piece of art that we create that, there's our ego, of course, gets attached to, I want it to be successful. I want people to like it. I want people to like me in it. I want people to like my work that I've done. And I think it's important to acknowledge that and not pretend that that's not a factor. But really, really the reason is that we want this to be medicine. We want all the things that we do to be medicine for the world. And that's really ultimately the only thing that is sustainable. That's the only thing that has substance when you actually pierce through deeper into the layers.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that because every film that I've ever worked on has been in some sense an altered state. And the first few films that I made, it was before YouTube, actually. It was Google videos. I didn't even have a concept for what viral meant. That wasn't really like a talked about thing. And so when I put my first film out there, it started going viral. But I remember the process of my first two films. It was Esoteric Agenda and Kymatica. I barely remember the process of it. It was just stream of consciousness. It started just coming out very naturally. I didn't have a thought of how to monetize it or who it should reach or what it should do. But obviously that's important. If there's a valuable message for people, then it going viral is for the same reason why we want, real medicine, which, doesn't need to have a certain substance or a container for it. You want real medicine to be viral in that respect.
Sure.
And so
because the antithesis of real medicine is absolutely viral, and speaking about the darkness, the funny thing is like we use the word darkness for bad, and I think being in this darkness, which I found, and I used the word obsequious, right? It was like just this loving, nurturing womb of medicine that I was in. So I catch myself now even using that dark equals bad. Certainly the darkness that I went into was everything but bad. It was an access point. It was a bridge to love for myself, love for the world, the love of the divine. But this shadow, you could call it, or this, this challenge that the world's been in, really, this has been a virus, not only an actual virus, but the virus of fear. And what that's actually created in the world, I think that's the thing that's far more dangerous, long term. It is the virus, and this virus of fear is something that you can't quantify. You don't know exactly when you caught it. You don't know what your viral fear load is. And there's certainly no vaccine for it. And there's no other way other than finding the opposite, which is faith or love. And one of the really challenging things about this time is fear has spread out of control, and then the manipulation of people because of that fear has spread out of control as well. And this is just one of those journeys where I had to confront my own fears. And this is the way with ayahuasca. This is the way with anything. You have to go stare at that dragon that's in the dark, that monster under the bed, and say, all right, here I am, do your worst. Let's see what's at the bottom of all of this. And always when you have the patience and the courage to go look at your fear, you find that it's all just an illusion, that, it's really, sure, you don't want to die or you don't want to suffer. It's not the preferable way. If I'm choosing my paths and outcomes, I'm not like, it doesn't matter if I'm, tortured and kidnapped and killed, that's all good. Or if I live a beautiful, loving life with my wife and father children and go on to a beautiful existence. Of course, I want the latter, but nonetheless, there's a huge release when you can release the fear that you have of all of these things because you faced them.
Yeah.
And you know that you'll be okay, even if you die, even if the worst thing, and I think that's really where a lot of this fear comes from, is this fear of death, because we don't understand death. And I feel like, through my journeys, and probably yourself as well, and a lot of people who've done these deep journeys like ayahuasca, they call it the vine of the soul or the vine of death, because you have to confront that, and you have to pierce that veil just enough where you understand, all right, there's some part of me that exists beyond this physical reality.
Yeah.
And this part can't be destroyed, can't be killed. It's the diamond in a world full of pillows, right? Like nothing's going to scratch it, mar it. This is my consciousness. This is love expressed through my perspective, and this is mine forever.